Yeah. Ooh, this energy is so raw right now. It won't be quiet, it won't back down. It's beating like thunder under my skin, calling what was hidden to finally begin. Every breath feels charged with fire.
Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. I hope you guys are well today. Welcome to Blood Moon Oracle, and my name is Leticia. We are here for our weekly reading from the book Spiritual Hygiene from Ayanla Van Zandt, the author, the minister, the coach, the family therapist, the high priestess. Like, she has so many titles, so many names, the healer. She's amazing, amazing, I tell you. And I just adore her for the work that she does. Anybody that will commit their lives to the betterment of others is worthy of accolade and worthy of honor. They are why we are moving forward spiritually, mentally, in every aspect of the word. When we look at the world today, there's so much need, and it all stems from the spiritual realm, the spiritual reality, right? Even as we look at ourselves collectively, there's a spiritual body that is in many ways sick and unhealed. Well, she's taken on the mission to not just be somebody to be like, well, this is wrong and this is wrong, and I don't know why they do that, but someone who actually steps in to make a difference, and uses her own life as an example of that. She doesn't sugarcoat a lot of things, even when it comes to her own story and examples. Like, she's real. You have to be real if you want to heal, right? Speaking of being real, it's been a difficult couple of months, a difficult couple of weeks. And I don't know about you guys, but it's been kind of, I don't know, this past week was a little bit emotional. And I had a couple of opportunities to kind of release emotionally over this past week. And it was pretty refreshing, I must say. It must have been something that needed to surface and come out. And maybe that's not just me. And maybe I know we had some lunar cycles transpire as well. But yeah, this stuff is real. It's real. And the rewards from being willing to do the work is real, and be transparent and real with yourself. It has nothing to do with anybody outside of us. It is all from within. Our responsibility to heal and to live clean, fruitful lives is our responsibility. At the end of the day, we're not going to be able to point at nobody else and say what they did or did not do, because we ultimately have autonomy over our own lives, spiritually, emotionally, physically, right? Mentally. All aspects of our lives are within our hands. And when there's areas that are not, things do happen. I've had experiences where I felt like I didn't have autonomy, but the truth was that I really did. I did need to make some decisions, to release some things, to release some people, to change the situation. Nevertheless, it was still my decisions to make. And so I really admire her. And I'm saying this because I'm a little sad because we're coming to the end of the book, but that doesn't mean that it has to end here. That means that there's time to really integrate these things, integrate the reality of the healing that we need. And it starts with each and every one of us individually. Everybody taking accountability for themselves, however that looks, whatever that is that you need to create a better you. Like, that's your responsibility. That's my responsibility. And it starts there. And we have these way showers. We have these initiators like Ayanla, who has taken on the charge to start this energy. And so even though we're ending the book, I think we have maybe 1 or 2 chapters left. I feel like the fact that we have recorded, even if you haven't bought it, you could always go back and rewatch. As far as YouTube will allow these videos to be available, they're free. You could always resource them, go back and watch them whenever you get ready. You can start back from the beginning and rewatch the second time. Sometimes there's things that we've missed the first time around that we catch the second time. Sometimes we live an experience that brings some things to light, that turns on the light bulb. And it's like, ooh, I think there was something said about that, right? Let me go back and read that again, or let me go back and watch that again. And it makes total sense. It actually turns the light bulb on and it becomes more clearer. And so even though we are coming to the end of the book, that doesn't mean that it's the end. No, that means that it's the beginning of the healing integration, the opportunity to integrate what we are learning. And it doesn't mean you have to wait till the book ends to do that. No, you could do that at any time. When we know better, we do better, right? From our beautiful ancestor, Maya Angelou. But we're going to start here. My name is Leticia or Letty. And we're going to start with our prayer meditation as we always do. And I just want you to reflect on this past week, like some of the experiences that you've had emotionally, spiritually, and energetically, and how that, were you aware of it? Or was it just walking through the week mentally, not really giving room to stop and think about how you're feeling about what's happening or how you are processing? Like, what was the inside environment like over this past week? That's something to think about. But I do invite you, if you do want to support the work, the channel, you can simply just like it, share it. You can comment how it has helped or how it relates. If you have questions, something you don't understand, you can actually create a dialogue. That would be great. And if this is your first time passing through the channel and this is an interest of yours, you can subscribe and hit the bell, because there's a lot of things on here other than just the book reading. I also do forms of divination like tarot reading, which has been off and on, but I feel really understanding that I'm healing as well. And so I'm also on my journey as well. And, it's not a straight and narrow journey. Like, it's up and down, in and out, off and on. Like, there's a lot to be said about the dance of life that we're experiencing, even as it pertains to healing, and I feel really called to healing, and to be allowing myself to be open to continuously be open to this energy as well. And so I really do focus in really on everything that I do when it comes to my spiritual walk. So even the readings will have that sense of healing undertone. That's the whole purpose. When I sit down to do the reading, it is with the intent to offer some form of healing, even if that's bringing clarity. And it's funny because as I look around and I'm like, sometimes I get to do other types of readings. Like last night, I did a reading about cross watchers. But even in that, I find space to offer, clarity around ways that we can invite, healing in. But certain videos get more response than others. If I come straight with the healing, it's like, okay, that's cool. I don't really get a lot of feedback. But if I do certain genres of videos like cross-watching or what are they thinking or what does she say, like that more juicier type of reading, I find that I get a lot more interaction. Like, not everybody is really understanding the importance of healing as it pertains to everyday life and how we are to find our contentment and our happiness. It starts with healing. Unfortunately, we are looking for other things, and that's okay too. That's neither here nor there, because that's not why I do this. I do it to open up the dialogue around healing. And it's usually those things that we don't like to talk about, that we don't like to share. Like, nobody wants to share the fact that they felt very vulnerable last week and they had to kind of flush out some things, right? That's just not popular, and it doesn't make us look like we have it all together. When in fact, who cares what people think? What people think has less than 1% effect on what your life is, on what your life has the potential to become. Why should we put so much weight on what people are thinking? And so it's okay, I think, really to be open and vulnerable when it pertains to our healing process. And so And sometimes that can offer space for the right support to come in, the right energies to surround you, right? And so we're going to get started here with the opening prayer before we go into this particular reading. It's a long chapter, so get your tea, get your crackers and your crumpets, whatever you have, because it's going to be a nice reading. And this week's reading is about spiritual hygiene in the workplace. Okay. Last week was about spiritual hygiene in relationships. That was good. I think this is going to be good too. Chapter 17, we're going to start on page 300, and 14, talking about spiritual hygiene in the workplace. Spirit knows exactly what's happening here. I tell you, I always end these readings with my jaw on the floor. I'm just never short of being flabbergasted when it comes to how on point this has been. It's amazing how Spirit is always in tune with what is needed in the moment, on time. But let's get started with our opening prayer or meditation, however you want to refer to that. Beloved presence of light and order, I welcome you into every space where my feet walk. I welcome you into every task that my hands complete, and into every word I speak in service. Let this day, this desk, this duty become an altar of sacred offering. Let what I touch be touched by peace. Let what I create carry the vibration of clarity and alignment. Where distortion seeks to distract, I ask to remain anchored. Where dysfunction speaks loudly, I ask to remain or only answer to the truth. Where power is misused, I will remember. I am governed by the divine, and I affirm that no title is greater than my calling. I'm going to say that again. I affirm that no title is greater than my calling. No office is stronger than my alignment. No system can silence the soul that knows its source. I declare, in this workplace, I bring light without aggression. I uphold boundaries without apology. I stand in sacred clarity without needing to be understood. Spirit, sanctify the unseen places, the meetings, the decisions, the conversations, and let me be a living sanctuary. Let the space be a place of right action, right speech, and right rhythm. May I serve without self-betrayal. May I lead without distortion. May I shine without shrinking. I am here. I am clean. I am whole. I walk this day in alignment with the divine. Amen. Ashe, Ao, and so it is. I don't know why that just hit me in a deep place. Maybe somebody needs to hear that today, that you are here, that you're clean, that you are already whole. You're whole. Okay. Amen and amen. And so again, we talked last week about spiritual hygiene for relationships and cleaning or clearing the mirror and honoring the bond. Some good stuff. If you didn't watch last week's, make sure you go back and watch last week's video about connections and how that relates to spiritual hygiene and how we fit in that equation. Just as equally important is our spiritual hygiene in the workplace. And so we're going to talk about that this week. The sacred art of alignment in professional environments. Oh, goodness. So let me just get my little self comfortable, kick my feet up. Underneath my desk, I have this body ball that I use to just keep my legs active. I don't really like to be still for long periods of time, so I have to move and I have to be kind of active in one way or another. So it just gives me something to do. So I can kick my feet up while I start this read. Chapter 17, page 314. If you have your books, let's begin. She was a spiritually grounded woman in a secular space, an entrepreneur turned consultant navigating the dense terrain of boardrooms, deadlines, and unspoken expectations. Every day, she entered the corporate world with prayer on her lips and a desire to be a light. Yet something sacred within her was dimming. Each time a project crossed her desk with unrealistic timelines, she nodded. Anytime a manager spoke over her in a meeting, she smiled. When a colleague claimed credit for her work, she stayed silent. She was praised for being easy to work with, but inside, on her internal landscape, her voice trembled if she attempted to break the self imposed silence. Her boundaries collapsed beneath the weight of compliance. Her heart, which she knew to be the compass of her calling, grew weary and resentful. It was not the words that burdened her, it was the betrayal of her inner truth in the name of keeping peace, getting along, and earning her check. Eventually, the gnawing question became a jolting scream. Is peace truly peace if it costs your integrity? Is peace truly peace if it costs you your integrity? Is the question. So the workplace is not a temple. You are. Okay. It is true. People do not go to work to get healed. They go to earn a living, fulfill responsibilities, and support their lives. There are also those who work at doing what they love just because they love it. While the intention of work may be personal and practical, the experience of work is not always spiritual. In fact, you do not need to be in a temple for a transformation to occur. Oh, I know that's right. You do not need your coworkers to be conscious of your soul to grow. Wherever you go, your inner altar goes there with you. And whether you intend to heal or not, the dynamics of the workplace will activate your wounds. Ooh. They will also reflect your patterns and challenge your integrity. While people may not go to work to get healed, if they are not spiritually aware of how they work, they will carry stress home, fracture their self-worth, and accumulate spiritual weight with every unchecked exchange. Spiritual hygiene does not demand that the workplace become sacred. It invites you to stay sacred within the workplace. Every professional space, whether it's a bustling hospital, a digital team meeting, a construction site, or a home office, holds energetic contracts. These contracts are shaped by the invisible agreements we make with roles, expectations, unspoken rules, and systems of power. Workplaces mirror our inner patterns. They reveal the places we perform for validation. They reveal the places we withhold truth to avoid conflict. They reveal the places we attach to status or struggle with subservience. They reveal places where we silence our instincts to fit in or survive. But to bring spiritual hygiene into the workplace is to clear the inner altar of people pleasing. It is to reclaim energetic sovereignty, and it is to dismantle inherited hierarchies of value. It's also to allow divine order to move through our actions, advocacy, and presence. This is not about making the workplace spiritual. It is about bringing your clean spirit into the workplace. That's so deep. Just to start, I start with my jaw on the ground, just like, And I've shared this, on several occasions, that we are the living temple. We really are. You don't actually have to go to a place of worship. You are the place of worship. It's understanding that. And the more you understand about yourself and what you have access to and the power that lies within you, the more you realize the power that lies within, the more you realize that you are the living temple. And everywhere you go, you carry that energy, that power with you. Most people don't understand that. So therefore, they do feel like they need to go somewhere or go to someone to get what is already within. Not to say there's anything wrong with that, because we're all at different levels of understanding and learning. And so you do what is best for you. You know, I've had phases of my life where that was very much a part of my weekly routine. Like my whole life evolved around what I believe to be the temple, the place where I went to feel and to get clean. However, I never really needed to go there. All of that was within me, right? It's all within me. But it's upon understanding that we are free to make that choice and to grasp that understanding. And to bring this down to the workplace, it's like you bring a presence with you. Like she was saying, there's a certain energetic frequency within your workspace, and it all lies within you, right? What energy are you bringing? For those that are aware that they are a temple, right? That's the energy that you bring into the workplace, possibly. This is not about making the workplace spiritual. Again, it is about bringing your clean spirit into the space. You are the temple. And wherever you go, there is the temple there in that place. The fact that you are there, if you're a clean temple, you bring that presence and you change the energetic frequency in that place where you are. Sometimes we don't know what that is. We don't know what to call it. We just know it's something different there, right? That's what it is. And that's might be having something to do with someone particular that is carrying that energy. Okay. Then we have neutrality versus passivity. Okay. It is quite common for people on a spiritual path to continue neutrality with passivity to get along in a workplace. This is an important distinction in the workplace because many individuals are suffering silently, mistaking spiritual passivity for maturity and energetic collapse for professionalism. Neutrality, the active presence of spiritual maturity, is clear and rooted. Passivity is a state of disconnection and resignation in the workplace. It is often rewarded, but at the cost of one's soul. Passivity turns away when someone is being mistreated. Neutrality notices and names it calmly and clearly without escalation. Neutrality may be misunderstood, but it keeps you spiritually clean. It honors the full picture without collapsing into blame or emotional reactivity. It allows you to observe dysfunction without absorbing it and to advocate without aggression. Passivity is often spiritual suppression masquerading as peace. It silences the soul and grants power to distortion. Neutrality, by contrast, is sacred discernment in action. So when we look at passivity, it stems from the fear of conflict, trauma conditioning, desire to be liked or to stay safe, or long-term energetic depletion. And how it shows up is it's silence when you want to speak, nodding when you mean no, smiling to avoid discomfort, internalizing harm instead of naming it, right? And let me give you an example of what that looks like. So you have what we would call a group, or we call them cliques, right? And these cliques have certain undertones of discussion about people, and you realize it's not right, right? But you kind of go along to get along, and you watch these conversations happen, or you watch the gossip being spread around, even though you're not necessarily in agreement with it. You don't necessarily feel the need to reject it, or even, and it doesn't even have to be aggression. It could be something as simple as, somebody whispering about somebody, maybe how their makeup looks one day, right? And instead of saying, yeah, it does look weird, instead of saying that, you say, but actually, I actually don't mind trying different things. Maybe she's in an era of her life where she wants to try different things. Maybe that is behind the makeup, right? Considering her right to wear whatever it is that she wants to wear. Who are you to judge, right? And so instead of gathering in on the gossip, maybe adding a comment to validate her right to wear whatever it is that she wants to wear. Maybe she didn't have a choice of makeup that day. Maybe she borrowed somebody else's makeup. That's why it may not necessarily match her skin tone, right? But sometimes when we talk about this energy of passivity, it's a fear of going against the grain. It's the fear of, being looked at or starting some form of contention for standing up for what's right. It's the fear of you having the negativity turned on you as you stand up for someone else, right? It's the brainwashing that this is just what we do and we have fun while we're doing it. There's nothing fun, right, about bullying people or picking on people that are different or that may not have, what you may feel like people should have. But being afraid to speak out, in essence, what you are doing is, like she spoke a while earlier, it's like you are turning against your own soul, right? When you refuse. And if nothing else, you may not have to say anything, but also one of the options is to separate yourself from that energy. You may not feel the need to say something, but to separate yourself from the energy, because it is true that you are who you hang around. You want to know who you are? Look at the people that are around you. Look at their character. Look at what they're doing. That's you, right? Because sooner or later, you will become susceptible to it as long as you stay in that environment and under that kind of energy. But that's what it means to be passive. It's like not having a backbone to do what you're being called to do. And that may be very well be to speak or to say no. Not this time. I'm not feeling, up to it, or not necessarily having to smile, to grin and bear it, but letting it be known. I don't know if I agree with that. I have that bad. Like, people, when they first meet me, tend to think that I'm really mean because of the look on my face. I just have RBF. Y'all know what that is, right? Resting. And I've always had it. It's just something that, I don't know. Maybe I have wore my emotions on my face, looking back at some of the experiences that I've had. Maybe it has been something that I've expressed facially. But when you meet me, I've often had people tell me, like, I thought you were mean all through high school and grade school. But when I met you, like, I'm like the biggest, softest teddy bear, like, that you could ever know. Like, I actually had to train myself to really set boundaries and really be strict with people, because I want to live in a world where I could be soft. And for a long time, I believed that if I could just be soft enough, that I could change the world. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, because what you end up doing is attracting people who are attracted to that softness because they want to use it and abuse it. And so I had to really understand the purpose behind getting a backbone and having a side that I can utilize when necessary, that is strong. And that really is what they see, that resting, what face, but really standing in that energy too. I had to really teach myself to stand in that energy, like as a form of protection. But underneath all of that, for those that are able to, get to know me, they understand who I am. And so it doesn't really need to be explained. If you know, you know. If you don't, then you don't need to know. But I really want to live in a world where I could be soft, where people can be soft, where they can be loving without having to have that hard edge. But that's just not reality. And I don't know how I got on that, but we were talking about passivity and having this very strong or this very soft nature. That used to be me until I learned different, until I learned that there is a need, like to have this very protective energy as well. That's very much needed, as well as that very loving energy too. And so I had to learn too, like to really stand up and grow a backbone. And so I can't even remember how I got on that, but I'm going to move on. We were talking about neutrality versus passivity, and we looked at some of the ways that that passivity shows up. But to maintain spiritual purity in a challenged workplace, we must not confuse collapse with compassion or silence with wisdom. Neutrality is active, is grounded, it's aware, and it remains fully present in the moment. It listens deeply, it sees clearly, and it stays attuned to both energy and truth, right? It's always like analyzing. Neutrality allows you to witness dysfunction without becoming entangled in it. You can name what is happening without being consumed by it. And you are not silent from fear. You are silent with power. Okay, the power of knowing. That's really deep. That's deep. And it takes some skill to do that. As I'm just thinking of what she just said, like to be aware of it, but not become entangled in it. Like it takes a lot of intelligence, a lot of wisdom, a lot of discipline, right? And so there's a lot happening here. You don't just wake up like this. This is something that you learn, I think, really through experience and through understanding what you're looking at. Ooh, it's getting kind of warm in here. Okay. The next part says the workplace as a reflection of a family feud. We don't just bring our resumes and skill sets to work. We bring our stories, our coping patterns, our conditioned roles, our unhealed wounds, our energetic contracts, and our protective armor. In this way, the workplace becomes a living mirror, a field where familiar energies from home are replayed through professional roles. While most people, particularly highly experienced or educated individuals, would vehemently deny this reality, the workplace often reflects unhealed dynamics from childhood and family. Roles such as the boss, the coworker, the overachiever, the fixer, and the silent one are often spiritual archetypes rooted in home conditioning. This transforms the workplace into a classroom for reparenting, reclamation, and remembrance. If you grew up in a home where your world was tied to performance, you may become the overachiever who never rests. If you learn to stay silent to maintain peace, you may avoid difficult conversations with coworkers and supervisors. If you were overlooked as a child, you may feel invisible in meetings or unsupported by leadership. If you were the caretaker or peacekeeper in the family, you may overfunction at work, trying to fix what is not yours to carry. These patterns are not conscious choices. They are energetic replays, sacred invitations to grow. They are survival strategies that follow us into every system until they are acknowledged and healed. Recognizing and understanding this as a function of spiritual hygiene elevates the workplace into an altar of awareness where you can reclaim your voice, establish clear boundaries, heal performance-based self-worth, and practice inner authority over inherited obediences. Practice inner authority over inherited obediences. All of this is so deep. It's so deep. And we're all bringing different things to the workplace, healed and unhealed, which makes it this big, huge mirror that in many ways sometimes is triggering and conflictual. Like the workplace can end up being just like a very heavy place to deal with what we're talking about here. And this is why. This means that your job in a workplace is not only a place where you can earn an income, but it can also be a site of initiation. It holds, excuse me, it holds the potential and provides the opportunity to reparent yourself, realign distorted power dynamics, and to transform unconscious loyalties into conscious choices. In this way, the office becomes a temple. The job assignment becomes a curriculum. All conflict becomes a catalyst, and you can become the clean vessel of transformation. Every shift you make within yourself is a response. Every shift you make within yourself in response to a workplace learning challenge ripples through your workplace, your family, and the collective field. When all the roles fall away, the job title, performance, pressure, politics, there is only you and the divine with you. From the perspective of spiritual hygiene, you did not end up in your workplace by accident. You were placed there as a steward of light to walk through it, cleansed, centered, and clear. Where this awareness is accepted, where this awareness is accepted, you will tend to the inner altar as much as the outer assignment. And your integrity, not your income, will be your compass. Your peace, not your productivity, becomes your measure of success. Oh, I love that. I love that. And there's a sense of balance to what we're talking about here. Not that you just set down all the responsibilities that come along with the job that you do, but there is a balance between the spiritual integrity that you bring from your personal life, your personal walk, into your professional walk. Powerful stuff. And you definitely see the difference in those in the workplace that are balanced in this way. I know I do. I could clearly see it. There's just something, there's a light that is shining when you see this balance of those that are aware of the integrity that needs to be brought into the professional scene, the spiritual integrity, the personal integrity. It's like night and day. And that's what she's talking about, this balance between our inner altar and the outer assignment, right? Not to take away from all that is required for you to be successful in your job, but to understand it's not just that. You also need to be successful in your personal life as well. We're not selling our souls to the devil just to make money or just to wear this hat, whatever position that is, or just to, be in this position of authority, right? It's more than that. And I always say, even when in my readings, it's like when we are given power, like it's not to lord it over people. It's not to say that, oh, we're just so great. And no, but you've been placed there for a purpose. And immediately I'm thinking of Esther. And in the Bible, we've been called here for such a time as this. She was placed in a position of power because of who she was married to, not because she was so beautiful, not because she was such a wonderful woman or she was so amazing and just this amazing figure. That it had nothing to do with none of those things. She was placed there to bring in the healing and to bring in the agency for her people. Ooh, I have a knot in my stomach right now that's rising up. It wasn't about power, right? But she was placed there so she could fight off the hand of the enemy that sought to destroy a nation, a very crafty enemy that was actually doing it very well, right? But she had been given the wisdom and the power to defeat that enemy and to turn his tricks against him. And so instead of destroying a whole generation, a whole line of people, the grave that he dug for them, he ends up being buried in. Or I could say the guillotine that he planned for her people, he ended up hanging on, right? And so it's kind of like looking at it like that, right? Now, had she had the wrong idea about that, had she thought that she was just so amazing and wonderful and, that's why she was put in that position, she would have missed the whole thing. She would have missed the opportunity altogether of why she was placed in that position. It was purposeful. And it was one where she integrated her spiritual awareness, her personal integrity, who she was, her responsibility, being in a position of power to protect, to serve, to make a difference, to heal, right? To integrate that with the actual position. That was the whole purpose. And so many times we can miss that, even in the workplace, right? Sometimes we have people that are placed in a position of power that can make a huge difference, but for some reason, their mind is somewhere else. And so we have to ask, why? Why am I being sent here? That's one of the things that I've asked. It's like, why have I been sent here? For what purpose? How can I make a difference? How can I bring healing? How can I, make change for the better? It's not just because you're so wonderful, because honestly, you may not be to everybody, And so there's something to be said about bringing in this understanding of the need to integrate the inner altar with the outer assignment. Okay. It's not just about income, right? It's more than that. Integrity. At the end of the day, having peace, knowing that you have been productive and successful in both areas of your life, your personal integrous life and also the calling of this job, right? At the end of the day, when you lay down and you're at peace, that's your indication that you have been successful. If there's something churning on the inside, there may need to be something that needs to be addressed. But we're going to take a sacred pause here for a 3-minute alignment reset. Okay. Wherever you are, you could be at your desk, you could be in your car, you could be on your phone watching this, you could be in your bed, in the hallway. Just close your eyes for a second. And I want you to soften your gaze and just repeat from within yourself as you breathe. Return to your breath, deep breathing in your diaphragm. And as you're taking in air, your diaphragm is expanding like a balloon. And as you release the air, it's flattening, like releasing all the air out of that balloon. Begin to breathe deeply. Prana. The very energy of life is what you're breathing. And repeat from within, I bless this space, this moment, and myself. I bless this space, this moment, and myself. I bless this space, this moment, and myself. I become the presence of clarity, peace, and truth. This is how you stay clean. This is how you stay free. You are not just an employee. You are a vessel of light. And the altar is wherever your feet are planted in truth. This is how you remember who you are, even in the most chaotic and unholy places. Speaking these words over ourselves. Words have power. It's remembering that the power within, even when the without is chaotic, you still have the authority to proclaim power within, peace within. All right. Come on back. The next section says power dynamics, self-advocacy, and the voice of worth. Okay. Every workplace has power structures, both formal and informal. Whether you are an executive, an assistant, a teacher, a cashier, or a contractor, your ability to own your inner authority is essential to your spiritual hygiene. Your voice of worth must be practiced until it becomes familiar and comfortable. Your voice of worth is your soul speaking on behalf of your inherent value without shrinking, performing, or apologizing for its presence. It need not be loud, but it must be clear. It need not be defensive, but it must be firm. The voice of worth disrupts these patterns. It restores sacred balance. It is the bridge between spiritual hygiene and professional integrity. The voice of your worth in the workplace is the one that will say, I need clarity before I can proceed. It'll say, that tone doesn't work for me. It will say, I can't commit to that deadline without compromising quality. It will say, that tone doesn't support clarity or collaboration. Let's reset. It will say, no, I'm not available at that time. Or it will say, here's what I need in order to move forward with integrity. Okay. These are not acts of rebellion. They are acts of self-respect, energetic protection, energetic protection, and soul alignment. Self-advocacy in the workplace is not rebellion. It is having and holding a reverence for your assignment. In spaces where multiple energies, agendas, and personalities collide, energetic contamination is common. It is easy to believe that what you feel at work in response to the environment is a sign of personal weakness. Spiritual hygiene acknowledges that it may also be a sensitivity that requires management. You are not obligated to absorb the energy of the room or the people in that room. You are called to anchor the energy of the divine within yourself. Your workplace life is not separate from your spiritual life. It is one of the altars on which your alignment is tested and refined. When an authority figure or coworker acts out or behaves in an unruly, dismissive, or disruptive way, the spiritually hygienic response is not a reaction, but rather reclamation. Below is a teaching guide for your heart and words in such moments, along with a path towards mending the breach, right? I love how she said that, to be sensitive is not a lack of spiritual hygiene. It just means that if you are somebody sensitive, then that's going to require more management for you. You may need to focus on this a little bit more than the average person. And that's very true. And so, yeah, just because you speak your truth or out of integrity, or maybe you let someone know, how you are perceiving something, does not mean that you're in rebellion, right? It's integrous. It allows for a successful future, right? Because now it's clear, I think it's the way we do things, the way we say things, but it's very important that we allow ourselves to be honest and integrous, right? Despite power dynamics, we do need to advocate for self, and we need to know how to do that, because that shows not only to us, but to the workplace in general, that we understand the self-worth aspect of the situation, So when we talk about honoring the sacred line, what cannot be accommodated in workplace relationships, spiritual hygiene is not simply about keeping your energy clean. It is also about protecting the field of your dignity from repeated contamination. Too often, in the name of professionalism, peacekeeping, or job security, individuals tolerate what is spiritually corrosive. Some professionally accepted behaviors slowly erode clarity, confidence, and connection to truth. Spiritual hygiene does not ask you to endure everything and call it grace, right? You don't have to endure stuff and just say, I'm going to have grace. It calls you to discern what must never be normalized for the sake of your wholeness and respect in the space. Like that example I gave around the cliques and the gossip and the slandering, you don't have to endure that or put up with that for the sake of grace. Oh, that's just the way they are. Okay. And you don't have to put up with it. You don't have to associate with it. Or if you choose to associate with it, if it's not aligning with you inwardly, maybe you're being guided to speak out about it, right? To say something. Certain behaviors cannot be prayed over, tolerated indefinitely, or spiritually excused. They must be named and released, for they do not belong in your energetic field. And you get to decide that. You get to be the one that to decide what aligns with you, because only you can feel what's going on within you, right? There may be something that's happening and you're not sure why. You're just not, it's not sitting right with you, right? It's like something just doesn't seem right about that. I'm not sure what it is. I can't put my hand on it, but it just doesn't seem right. I'm going to have to pass on this one, right? I can't be a part of this one for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, we're going to just go ahead and pass on this one. They must be named and released, for they do not belong in your energetic field. When we are clear, we recognize that some energies, behaviors, and patterns, though often accepted or expected in the workplace relationships, cannot be specifically accommodated. Consistent disrespect or devaluation. If someone regularly speaks over you, minimizes your contributions, ignores your boundaries, or undermines your role, this is not a case of personality conflict. It is energetic erosion. You must not allow repeated dishonor to become familiar. The energetic impact is the gradual erosion of self-worth, voice suppression, over-adaptation, and soul fatigue. You do not need aggression to defend your values. However, you will need firm, clear boundaries to affirm them, right? And so, in that case where you have this situation, maybe there's someone that continues to disrespect you or do something that is disrespectful. For example, maybe you have someone that you hold close and dear, and this person, for God's forbid, right, can't hold hot water, right? They just can't hold, they can't help it, loving person, but for some reason they just can't hold hot water. It's like, and the fact that they can't hold hot waters, it draws some contention within you because you're close to this person and you end up sharing things, or they know intimate details about you that often gets put out. That's a problem. That's a problem. And the fact that this person can't hold hot water, it happens over and over and over, but they're loving, they're kind, they do nice things for you. It's just this one thing. It's just this one thing. But the thing about that is that one thing is enough because it doesn't align and it doesn't respect you. It doesn't value you. So over time, as this continues to happen, you begin to lower your standards. You begin to lower your self-worth in order to accommodate this person that does not value what you value, right? That's what we're talking about, situations like that. It could also be, somebody that you work with, maybe that has a higher role than you, whatever the situation is. And this person continues to do little things that's disrespectful, but yet they feel like it should be okay. And you continue to put up with it without saying or addressing the issue, right? At some point, you need to either cut off total interaction with this person so they cannot affect your self-value, or you need to open up and be really honest with this person. And that's why there are so many discrete policies in effect in the workplace, is because there is a fine line, between what might be said or what might be done. Like, we have to be really cognizant of each other and of how we do things. And so, because there's this very thin line that can be crossed when it comes to someone being or feeling disrespected or devalued, And so that's where you have to be willing and able to advocate for yourself in those situations. And be willing to be the bad guy sometimes, right? If you find that you're just not aligning with something, I'm particularly somebody, I want to love everybody and I want to get along with everybody. But unfortunately, that's just not a reality. And I won't necessarily block anyone out to begin. Like, I want to know and get to know people. But if there's anything that happens that shows something that doesn't align, it's like, I don't waste time. I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and just move in a different direction, because I can see that this is probably not going to be a good alignment for me, right? For me. And so I generally am someone who will be very open and very receptive and very loving until you show me different. Now, one thing I have learned is when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. They don't have to show you 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 times, right? Like she was saying, this is some things you cannot give grace for. Like you really need to shut it down. For me, there's certain things that I have that I can't give grace to. And you should have those too. Each of us should have certain boundaries that we don't allow to be crossed. Okay. And we have to be willing to advocate for those boundaries. But how do we address it is the question. To reclaim the center before responding, do not react. We return to the inner altar. So we identify that thing. It's like, oh, this may not work. I'm already seeing. So let me just pull back and do what I call a heart check. Let me pull back and see what's going on here so I can get a clearer picture of what this is. So we retreat to our inner altar. Okay. And then we use clear language to announce our boundaries, right? And then we document patterns if necessary and seek support from a trusted ally or HR representative when aligned. And then lastly, daily affirmations. My presence is valuable. My voice is sacred. I do not need validation to know my worth, right? Continue to build yourself up on the back end as it pertains to whatever this issue is that you're having in the workplace, right? I do feel like there's, people many times, and we'll be able to identify those safe spaces because it's going to be people that you can clearly see who are clear. They clearly have those sense of boundaries in place when it comes to their work as opposed to their personal integrity, right? Within their personal life that they bring in. I feel like those are people that stand out very clearly. And it's usually going to be people that aren't, they're going to be people that you can clearly see that are seeking to help others, right? They're usually people whose lights are shining bright. There's just, for me, that's how I identify them. They're people that are just different. They move different. They feel, I'm a feeler. I'm an energetic feeler. They just feel different to me. But however you scope that out, however you determine, the, I don't want to say quality of a person, but however you feel out a person, trust yourself, right? Because those that can be trusted, those safe spaces are usually those that we know we can trust them. They feel safe until they show us anything different, right? But those are people that you can kind of, go to and seek guidance. And it's like, am I tripping? I want to share something with you because I know I could trust you. Let me just ask, maybe I'm tripping. Let me explain it to you, right? Or HR, go to HR. And so there's ways that we can address it. Not, just busting out, making a scene, doing all, right? There's a way to do things and address things. For me, I tend to be if it's something that's not blatantly disrespectful, right? Because I've had situations that's been super disrespectful and it's super turn offing. And it's like, oh my, like, go find something safe to do. But then there's also other things that's kind of subtle and you kind of just wait for the opportunity to have that discussion. It's like, okay, Spirit, if this is something that I need to address, give me the opportunity to have that discussion. And usually it will happen, and it's like, well, I've been noticing, yada, yada, yada. Is there something we need to talk about or is there an issue, And so feel it. You have to be able to feel it out and trust yourself and not devalue what it is that you're feeling, because what you have to say, how you're feeling is important, just as important as anybody else's, no matter if it's the boss, right? Your input is just as important as the boss, the top of the CEO, whoever that is, right? Because it's understanding too that we all play an integral part. And in order for this thing to work, we have to be able to function healthy, and so they would want to hear what you have to say. If they're wise, they would want to provide a safe space for you to be able to do your job proficiently if they're wise. And so don't demean or undercut your feelings or what you have to say or how you are interpreting things. Your presence is valuable, just as valuable as everyone else's. And your voice is sacred as well. And you don't need to be validated to know that you are worthy. Okay. Now, psychological manipulation or emotional gaslighting is the next section. If someone causes you to question your perception, invalidates your experiences, or consistently shifts blame without accountability, this is not teamwork. This is a toxic power play. Truth does not distort reality, it reveals it. The energetic impact of accommodating or tolerating this behavior is mental confusion, self doubt, spiritual disconnection, and internalized guilt.